Hey everyone, how are you guys doing today? So this is going to be a longer video than the most videos I make. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to install Windows 7 on Windows 10 using HyperV. So I'm going to go slow so that you guys can follow me, or you guys can hit pause, catch up any way you guys want. Why am I making this video? Well, a couple of reasons. One is I want to show you guys how to work with HyperV. It's a very powerful built-in tool that comes built in Windows 10. We just have to enable it. Second reason is that Windows 7 is still a very powerful operating system. There are a lot of tools and utilities that were made specifically for Windows 10 that we can utilize. Now, obviously you guys will need a Windows 7 ISO. So if you guys have one stored somewhere, time to, look through your archives and basically pull a Windows 7 ISO on your desktop for this exercise to work. I will try my best to be as detailed and thorough as possible. If you don't understand something, just leave me a comment and I'll elaborate on it. Once we install the HyperV, so here is basically the steps that we are going to go through. So right now we're going through the initial remarks. We're going to obviously install the HyperV role on Windows 10. We are going to configure the HyperV role. We're going to mount the ISO for Windows 7. We're going to install and configure Windows 7. We're going to go through the initial boot up, and then we're going to go through the concluding remarks. Okay. Don't worry, Windows 10 has made installing HyperV really easy. And one thing that you might want to make sure that your virtualization is turned on in your BIOS. Okay. I will go through that process with you guys. Basically, when you reboot your computer, you have to go into what's called as BIOS by hitting F10 or F1 depending on your laptop. Once you are in your BIOS, then you have to go to the virtualization menu and make sure it's enabled. If you have already enabled it, then you are good to go. So now let's start the process of installing HyperV. Alright, so there are a couple of things you guys can do to enable HyperV. One is to go into the control panel, go to your programs, go to programs and features, go to turn Windows features on or off. Once you guys are on this screen where you guys can see this, Windows features, turn Windows features on or off. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit. You're going to click HyperV. And here you're going to just make sure that all the components of HyperV are being installed. You're going to hit OK. And it's going to search for the required files, and it's going to start the installation process. Now keep in mind that it's very important, if you guys want to learn different OSs, that you guys play with the HyperV role, because I'm just installing Windows 7 on it, but you guys can install any flavor of Linux on it, Unix. So you can make HyperV your testing platform, which is so important to do. So as you can see that Windows has completed the required changes, Windows will need to reboot to finish installing the requested changes. So what we are going to do is we are going to reboot, and as soon as the computer is rebooted, we're going to continue. So see you guys back in a second. Thank you. Hello guys, how are you guys doing? So we are back after the reboot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch the HyperV Manager. And you do that by just typing in HyperV in the search bar. And you will get the HyperV Manager on your screen. So let me just show you the HyperV Manager and what it's all about. All right. So let's go ahead and kind of explain the different things here. So this is basically the HyperV Manager. Over here you can have multiple servers, desktops. Here you can also connect to a specific server. If I click here, it's going to give me more options that I can work with. Hyper-V settings, quick create, edit disk, and all these other options. Let's go ahead and start looking at some of these options. Basically here it is showing the different locations of it. The default locations are where it's going to store the hard drives and all that. You can go ahead and change these if you want. Here is the HyperV Manager configuration files. Here you have your storage migrations if you want to do that. Your enhanced session policy. You can read up on some of these. Basically, for the purposes of this video, these are the two that we are gonna take a look at. This is actually where we're gonna set up a new switch to connect to our internet. So all these machines, once we create an external switch, what it's gonna do is it's gonna use that to connect to the virtual machines. So let's go ahead and create a virtual switch. So this is going to be an external one. It's going to use my current wireless one. I could use the Ethernet one too. Just going to use the external. I'm going to name it external internet. I'm going to hit apply. And it's going to create the switch for me. So these are some of the things that you can do beforehand. And then later I'm going to show you how to set up your virtual machine. All right, it's done. Applying the changes. And now we have an external Ethernet. And see, it's got these two virtual adapters and everything. So far, we are doing good. All right, so now we're going to set up a Windows 7 virtual machine on this HyperV Manager. So let's get started with that. All right. So what we're gonna do is come here We're gonna make a new virtual machine. So this is gonna be my Windows 7 machine. Now I can store the virtual machine in this location, or I could store it somewhere different. So for now I'm just gonna choose the default location, but you can go ahead and change this location as you see fit. So let's continue. Choose generation of this virtual machine. So I'm going to choose 2 because it's the newer virtualization features, has other firmware updates. So I'm going to choose that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it 2 gigs of memory for now. So see here, I'm going to use my external internet switch. And so this is a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to allocate 30 gigs for this virtual machine. And I'm going to use the default location for this virtual drive. So install an operating system later, or I can mount an ISO right now. So let me just copy the ISO and I'll mount it here. Give me a second. Alright, so I've given it a location of my Windows 7 installation media. And now let's go ahead and hit next. This is going to be basically the ISO file, or if you have a CD-ROM drive, you can also mount it and give the executable there. But basically I have the ISO, so I'm just going to use that to install it. So now it's showing me pretty much everything that it's going to do here. And I've got my 2 gigs of RAM. Here's my external switch. Hard disk operating system will be done from here, and let's do finish. Now it's gonna create the disk and everything. And see, I've got it in the off state right now. Let's go ahead and start this up. See, it already created a checkpoint upon startup. And now it's going to start the installation. And once I double click on it, it's going to basically give me the virtual desktop. It's going to go ahead and start the install process. So let's wait a few minutes. All right. So let's take a look at the screen, install screen, to see where we are. So it's in the process of starting Windows. So basically, there's a secure boot option that you might have to turn off depending on your image. So that's what I had to do. But in any case, your Windows should start booting up at this stage. And here it's gonna go through the install process. So I'll be back as soon as I have an update. All right, guys, let's continue this. So now we see that we have a Windows 7 installation um, window that opened up. Now that's within our Hyper-V. Now, before we continue here, let me show you a couple of things. As you guys can see, within my Hyper-V, you guys will notice that I've got a Windows 7 that I'd originally created. Okay. Now, this was under generation 2. Okay. Remember when we were going through the setup, um, I had chosen generation 2 rather than generation 1 on, like, I think the second step. Okay. Well, it turned out, okay, that that didn't work to boot up Windows 7. The other error I was getting was some security error because the secure boot was on. All right, so full disclosure, that one didn't work. So all you need to do is when you're creating your machine, okay, and you're on this step right here, okay, you give your machine a name, and then just choose this option, okay. Maybe for older machines, this works better. If you have maybe a Windows 2019 or Windows 2010, the next generation OSs, you might want to test with this. But full disclosure, if this doesn't work out, just choose this and you will be good to go. Other than that, everything else is the same. All the file locations, um, memory, etc., etc. Everything is the same. All right, so let's go ahead and hit next. And we are going to install Windows now. So a couple of things here, just keep in mind that this will install Windows 7 within your Hyper-V environment. Now this is so important because for testing purposes, um, you can use it. You can use utilities that were made for Windows 7 that are still really good um, and can work really well. Um, so this one, it's not an upgrade. I'm just going to do custom install. It sees my 30 gig hard drive. This I can, um, expand later, but for now, I think 30 gigs is enough. So let's hit next. And now you guys have probably seen this window many times if you guys have worked with um, Windows 7. So this is the time where it's gonna, uh, just completely start installing Windows 7 and everything. So just keep in mind, that this is something that um, is the regular setup process. So I'm going to pause here, and then we're going to come back a little bit after some of this has been completed. All right, as we can see, it is still going through, and it is installing, expanding Windows file and all that. So we are going to come back in a second and check back on the performance. All right, as you can see that um, it has finished installing features, updates, it's checked for updates. Now it's going to restart and continue. So let's see what happens next. All right, let's reconnect. All right, it is installing. So it's updating registry settings and all that. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love Windows 7. You know, it's a great operating system. It's got so many utilities, so many things. So I would highly recommend, even if you guys don't have this for your primary workstation, set it up for your secondary, as a secondary workstation. All right, as you can see that it says the setup is now in the process of completing installation. So, you know, it's one of those things that is going to take a little bit of time depending on the resources you have allocated for it. I'm just currently installing this on my laptop. So, I mean, I would recommend, you know, having at least 16 gigs of RAM on your laptop, just so you guys can allocate at least like 4 gigs for Windows 7 and the rest for your laptop. But 3 to 4 gigs is fine, you know. So, be back in a second. So while it's installing, finishing up Windows 7, let me show you guys something which I think is going to help you guys. So open up your control panel in your Windows 10. Then I want you to go to Network and Internet. Click on Sharing and Center. Change adapter settings. Okay. Now you'll note that some of these, okay, are new. For example, normally you'll have your Ethernet and like your wireless. Okay. Now you see HyperV has made a network bridge adapter. This is the default that came with it, and this is the one I made. Remember when we were going through the setup? So all that is created within the network settings as well. So everything that you do there is gonna get created. Okay, so that's something that you guys need to know. So this thing is still completing installation. We'll check back on it in a minute. All right, let's take a look at our installation. So if you guys are ever in a situation where this completing installation window doesn't go away and it's taking a really long time, all you need to do, okay, is hold down Shift, okay, within this window, okay, and then press F10, okay, and that's gonna start up like a command prompt. After that, just type in explorer.exe, okay. So this error that it's giving me right now, okay, don't worry about that. What it's gonna do is it's gonna open up at least your start menu and everything. You know, it's gonna start setting up the Explorer. As you can see, I've got some menus here and stuff. I can see the control panel. Okay, some things have been set up already, so don't worry about anything. At this point, okay, we at least have this. You can see the taskbar is gonna come up. You know, your services, processes are at least set up. Okay, so at this point, all we're gonna do is we are going to close this window, gonna come here, we are going to shut down and restart. So we're gonna kick the installation, okay, basically. And let's see what happens after that. So let's give it a second. All right, so I just got a blue screen of error, and let's just do a Windows normally, start Windows normally here, and see if we can get out of this. Okay, so basically it gave me an error stating that um, we could not install Windows on this hardware, and it did a reboot. So let's see what happens now. I think we'll be fine, but let's just see. Keep in mind this is a really old copy of Windows 7 that I had in my archives, and you know, it's getting set up on HyperV. Let's see if we could run into any problems. Okay, this computer restarted unexpectedly. Encountered error when installation cannot proceed to install Windows. Restart. Continue to restarting after your computer. So let's see what's happening. Um, it keeps on. This is the second time it restarted. So let's see if we can get an installation going here. You know, looks like it's running through some setup again. It's trying to restart, setting up services. Same error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of things. Let's turn it off here. Okay. Let's turn off the installation. Okay. And what we're going to do is a couple of things. Let's go to settings. Okay. And processors, change that to 2. And let's give it some more RAM. Okay. And hardware acceleration. Let's disable that. Advanced features. That's fine. And let's go under processors, compatibility. I'm gonna do that. Let's hit apply. Okay. And let's start this. And let's see how far we get. It's starting up. All right, I'm not gonna press enter. Okay, let's see if we can make some progress here. Okay. All right. So let's see if we can troubleshoot this, okay? Give me a second. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up the command prompt using regedit, using Shift F10, and then we're gonna open up the registry. So once we have the registry opened, here's what we're gonna do.
And arrow keys and enter, and you should be able to move it. You can see here hit space to actually space is not working. Probably enter not working also. Let me try plus. This would be quite annoying. Yeah, I don't.
All right, so what I'm gonna show you guys is basically to fix this. Okay, what you guys have to do is open up the regedit in the command prompt, okay, by hitting Shift F10. It's going to bring up this, then type in regedit. Then you have to navigate into HKey local machine, okay, then go to setup, okay, go to child completion, okay. You can modify this, okay. This is going to be a 1. All you need to do is change it to a 3, okay. Hit OK, close this, and just hit OK here, okay. So let's see what happens now. So we're going to continue to troubleshoot this until we get it right, okay? I mean, it's good because sometimes things won't go your way, but that's why you guys just have to keep trying and just make sure that you get it working somehow, okay? See, setup is preparing your computer for first use. Remember, we were getting that error again and again. We're not getting that, and boom, we have our Windows 7 Ultimate here. Okay, so that is great, guys. I mean, we are at the cusp of a new installation now. Woohoo! So just by doing a couple of things, you guys can really make a difference. Okay, so let's go through this setup. And what I'm going to do is I am going to make this my test PC. So I'm just going to type in, and let's hit next. All right, let's type in a password. All right, hint. Let's. All right, let's hit next. All right, product key. You can always enter this later. I'll choose to, enter this thing later. So I'm going to skip this, and I'm just going to leave this as use recommended settings. You guys can choose your own time. I'll just choose central. Next, it's going to be home network. So, things might not work your way. If you start seeing errors and stuff, just research them online a little bit, and you should be able to, come out on top. As you can see, we saw a few errors, and then after that, it did come up. I mean, one of the things that I'll make sure is that we want to make sure that this does connect to the internet, and we'll go through that part as well before I close up the window, but close up the video. But make sure, guys, that even if you guys do run into errors, just make sure that you guys are, you know, researching that. And so let's open up your Explorer, okay? And let's see if something comes up. Otherwise, we can troubleshoot the network component of it. And obviously, this is the first time it's coming up. You guys can install either Bing, which is the Microsoft Edge, or Chrome or Firefox, whatever it is you guys want to. So this is the first time for Windows 7, and looks like it did come up, you know. Um, Now keep in mind this is an old browser, so it's gonna have, obviously it will have some errors, but looks like your Google is coming up. Let me come here and let me open up CMD, and see it is giving the correct IP address and stuff from my network. So this is all good. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I definitely want you guys to try this, okay? And make sure that even if you run into problems, no worries. We have so many resources online. Just comment in the comment section below, and we can research them together or do your own research. Let me know how everything went. But basically we went from installing the Hyper-V role all the way up to installing Windows 7. We saw some issues, we fixed them, and now we have a complete and genuine copy of Windows 7 running in our Hyper-V environment. So that concludes this video, guys. Please let me know what you guys thought about it, and con please continue to watch my channel for other upcoming videos. I have some really cool utilities and stuff that I'm going to share with you guys um, that will really make different uh, things that you guys do online really easy. All right, guys, thank you so much and have a good rest of the day.